The wait is finally over. This is finally the brand new third generation 2026 Mazda CX-5. As you can see, it still looks like a Mazda and still looks like a CX-5, but upon closer inspection, it looks more, I would say, like a scale model version of the CX-90, and that's exactly what Mazda was going for. Unfortunately, I was not able to see the CX-5 in person, and as of the time we're recording this video before the launch event, Mazda did not have complete specifications to give us, but we can talk about what we do know. The first thing that we know is that it is going to be bigger than the outgoing model. According to their dimensions that they've given us here, it's 4.5 inches longer, so it should be about 184.5 inches long, right about the same length as a current generation Honda CR-V or a Volkswagen Tiguan. About 1 inch shorter than the Mazda CX-50, however. Now, when Mazda launched the CX-50, they did say that it wasn't replacing the CX-5. They haven't said anything about the CX-50's future, but I would expect that these two models will probably continue to live side by side in the lineup for a while, because they are targeting slightly different shoppers here. The wheelbase has also been lengthened by about 3 inches. Now that's also interesting because it's about 109 inches long or so, which means the wheelbase is still going to be shorter than the wheelbase in the CX-50. It's also wider than the existing model, but that puts it still 2 inches narrower than the 50. So it is interesting that Mazda has CX-50 and CX-5, very similar in size in their segment, but not exactly the same vehicle. And then, of course, we have CX-70 and CX-90, which are the exact same vehicle, really. It's just that one is missing the third row and the other one has it. Now, let's talk about some of the other things that we do know. Obviously, we have the latest iteration of Mazda's really well done design language. I think this looks fantastic, and I have to admit, better than the CX-50, which I do really like already. It has that same sort of chiseled front end that we find in the CX-90 and that same sort of Mazda meets Volvo kink in the back that we also find in the CX-90. Now let's get to some of the things that Mazda did not reveal. We do not know exactly what's going on under the sheet metal. So is this more closely related to, for instance, the Mazda CX-5 formerly, or the Mazda CX-50 and Mazda 3 currently? We just don't know. We don't know also whether it has an independent suspension in the back or the semi-independent suspension that we find in the Mazda 3, for instance. I've never been the biggest fan of that particular suspension design, and that current complaint also applies to the Mazda CX-50. Now, the semi-independent suspension design in the CX-50 does give us more cargo room, and in this press release, they have said that the CX-5 gets more cargo room. They have said that the cargo area is 2 inches longer, 1 inch higher, and has a lower floor height than the previous generation model. That could point to a different rear suspension design, but it could also point to simply having a bigger box on top of the suspension. They have said that headroom and legroom and hip room are all improved over the previous generation CX-5. That's logical because of the extra length, the extra width, and of course the wheelbase stretch, but they didn't give us any official legroom or headroom specifications. However, the current CX-5 already scores pretty well in terms of legroom in the compact SUV segment, and that was really at the expense of cargo area in the back. So it looks like Mazda has adjusted things a little bit by stretching that cargo area a little bit while also stretching the rear seats, probably to give us close to or perhaps actually at best-in-class numbers for the rear seat legroom figures. Of course, we'll know more when we can actually get our hands on it. The other thing that they did was a pretty dramatic change to the interior. Now again, we don't have all of the details here, but if you take a look at that dashboard, this is a big departure from really anything that we've seen from Mazda for a while. We have this really big touchscreen infotainment system in the middle of the dashboard. This one is just over, if I go through the numbers here, just over 15 inches in terms of dimension, 15.6 inches it says, but Mazda says that it is an available screen, so we don't know what the base touchscreen looks like, but It does look like finally Mazda has ditched the silly control wheel, because we don't see one, at least in any of these photos so far, in the dashboard. They're going to be using a Google connected infotainment software on this screen as well. So all the Google apps and Google Maps and Google integrations will all work with this system. I think that was exactly the right direction for Mazda to go. I would expect that we also get a Google version, basically, of the instrument cluster software, although they weren't really clear on that. You can see in some of these photos that the instrument cluster gets a different design than we've seen in basically every other Mazda from now, but details are still a little bit sketchy on that. We definitely get a new steering wheel design and really a new vibe for the dashboard. It's much more linear, much lower and flatter, thanks to the screen position and just this new design that they've decided to go with. Mazda is also showing off a number of pictures and videos on the back seat arrangement in the CX-5. It gets a 40-20-40 folding back seat. I love that feature because it's simply more convenient for cargo, especially longer cargo items, than a regular 60-40 seat. This is something that we see in a lot of European market vehicles, and bear in mind that the prototypes that they were filming here and taking pictures of are European-specific vehicles. They haven't said whether this feature is coming to the US, but I suspect it probably will. But all these photos also really highlight the extra legroom that we get in the back. That's long been a reason to get the CX-5 over something like a RAV4 especially. Obviously, style is definitely part of that. There are some other interesting tidbits in the documentation that they sent us along here. The first one is that it's launching with not a new engine and transmission. Instead, we're getting basically the same 2.5-liter Skyactiv-Z engine that we've seen for a while, producing 187 horsepower, 185 pound-feet of torque, and a 6-speed automatic transmission. That surprises me quite a lot. Mazda has for some time tried to say that 6 speeds were the perfect number of speeds in a vehicle, but then they gave us a brand new transmission in CX-70 and CX-90. So I had expected them to redo their transmission or buy a transmission from Aisin or ZF or someone else, but it looks like they're sticking with that older in-house 6-speed automatic design that really has been around for quite some time. Now, the really cool and interesting part of this is that they are saying that it is coming with a new Skyactiv-Z engine, which will feature a Mazda hybrid system in 2027. Mazda has released only a small amount of information on the new Skyactiv-Z, or for our friends across the pond, the Skyactiv-Z engine platform. I wouldn't be surprised if over time this ended up replacing the Skyactiv-G engine platform, but we're going to have to wait and see on that one. What they have said, however, is that the new Skyactiv-Z engine will feature Mazda hybrid system technology to offer a higher level of performance and fuel efficiency, along with the engaging drive that our customers expect. So it will be a hybrid. We don't know all the details. I would expect that there's probably going to be a mild hybrid, a full hybrid, and maybe some sort of plug-in hybrid version of this family in the future, but details, again, still pretty sketchy. All that we know so far is that Mazda has said in the past that the new Skyactiv-Z, not G, the Z engine platform, is going to feature more up-to-date combustion technologies, a bunch of different fuel-saving technologies and techniques within the engine core design itself, as well as electrification outside of the engine as well. But obviously, details still to come, and that is going to be added to the family in 2027. The other thing that we don't have too much information on is what exactly they're talking about when it says that they're going to get new advanced driver assistance system features in the new model. They have said that they're targeting IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus, which obviously means it's going to have autonomous emergency braking and all the other technologies that we've seen in Mazda so far, but it implies that they're going to the next level. So I'm guessing some sort of semi-autonomous driving system, maybe a hands-off the steering wheel system, but no details on that hopeful thought just yet. Let me know what you think about all that down there in the comments section below. Unfortunately, because there are a lot of specifications and details that Mazda has not shared with us yet, it's hard to get into the nitty-gritty to see really how this compares against the competition. Even though the CX-5 is one of the oldest SUVs on sale in North America right now, I have to say, I still think it looks pretty darn good. And really, it's the interior and some of the other tech features that were holding it back, and that's exactly what Mazda has done with this new model. We don't know exactly when we're going to see this infotainment system grafted into other Mazda models, but I would guess it's going to take some time, because it's not just fitting the screen into the dashboard. It looks like it's being based on an entirely new back-end system. And then, of course, I mean, really, the dashboards are going to have to be redesigned in other Mazda models that don't have the ability to put that screen so front and center and close to the driver. But I'm finally happy that Mazda has given up on that controller knob. I understand their logic. They've always said they think the controller knob is safer rather than looking at the screen, but I have always found it's less convenient. It's also really strange to interact with your smartphone using that rotary knob, etc. The touchscreen has always been better, and that's why Mazda has slowly been moving in this particular direction. As always, let me know what you think about all that down there in the comment section below, and stay tuned because hopefully we will be able to get hands-on with the new CX-5 over the next few months and get a few more details in as far as the specifications go. I'll see all of you later.